what is really interesting for me is that if you know what artificial intelligence is and how it works, you're actually going to know much more about humans, how humans work. It might seem a little bit strange, but the reason is that the artificial intelligences, especially artificial neural networks, are copying the work, how the human brains work. So the artificial neural network is essentially imitating a human brain. Of course, if I say that, lots of people extremely start to lose their minds already. That, oh my God, Skynet and things like that. Of course, it's nothing like that. What I was saying is that artificial neural networks are literally copying how the human brains works, and especially how the specific part, the logical brain, works. Our brain are actually built up from completely different parts. The neocortex is basically the logical brain, what makes the logical thinking and evaluation. And this is especially what the artificial neural networks are copying. Now, that's an important thing that, the other parts of the brain, it's the middle and back parts especially, which are we can call it your lizard brain. So if you get any damage on those parts of your brain, you die, because there are the parts which are making you breathe, making your heart pumping. Oh, my lamp is slipping away all the time. All right, I'm going to hold it like this. So without those parts of the brain, we are going to die, because those parts of the brain consist all the necessary information for our body to function, and they are controlling all the, let's call it, unconscious things, and of course the artificial neural network, we want the neural network to think for us. So of course these kind of things are not implemented in them. But it just means that even though we are imitating the human brain, we are not copying the human brain. We are just taking the parts which we want to use in the artificial intelligence. And the interesting part is that the artificial neural network is working the exact same way how the human neural network does. Meaning that we have a lots of connecting neurons, and it's basically a big network, which, every neuron is connected to the other one. And different neurons, these connections has a different kind of thickness in our brain. We can call it thickness. Basically, that only controls that how strong impulse it is needed for the other connecting neuron to react to the impulse. So if it's too weak, it's not going to do anything. If it's strong enough, it's going to send a signal to the neighboring neurons, and they are going to do the same, and they are going to do the same. So it's basically a chain reaction of different levels of impulses. And basically that's how our brain works, which is fascinating, that how simple concept is enough to basically power us all, not just our thinking, but everything what you are, your personality, your feelings, your understanding of life, your knowledge, your memories is encoded in this neural network. And if you think about it, that how simple the system is, it's just have basically two parts, connections and neurons, which are going to send impulses, and basically that's it. It's fascinating that how simple it is and yet how complicated it can get. And literally what we do with artificial intelligence is that we copying nature and we created the digital version of this biological neural network. We define these connections and we define these neurons as values and what can I say, functions in a software, and they are going to behave exactly like a human brain would in certain inputs. However, as you might imagine, it's not that easy to teach anything to this network because it's a really bare bone thing. It doesn't have anything in it. So how we teach the neural network is that we give it a specific input which we do know what the output should be. For example, I want a neural network which is going to find a dog on a picture. So I give it to a picture and I want it to, I don't know, use a signal to show me that it is a dog or it's not a dog. So I show a picture of a dog and I look at its reaction, and if it's telling me that it's not a dog, I'm changing the connections, basically by trial and error. And sooner or later I'm going to find a neural network layout of different values, which is going to give me the answer that this is a dog if I'm showing it a dog. Of course, if I'm showing another picture of another dog, it again not going to know that it is a dog. So I'm going to do it again. So and now I'm going to have a neural network which looking at those two pictures, and it can see that both of them are dogs. If I have enough pictures, a lot of them, we are going to reach a point when if I am showing it pictures of dogs which I did not show it before, it's still going to recognize the dog. Because after a lot of different pictures, the artificial intelligence is going to learn what makes a dog a dog. Even though it's not thinking, it's not knowing that is a dog in the picture, it doesn't even know what the function, what he is doing. The function was defined by me, and that it is a dog, it's not even a concept what exists inside this neuron. Yet it's going to recognize dogs on pictures. And it's going to be accurately telling me that yes, on this picture there is a dog, and on this picture there is not a dog. So that is why when people are afraid that artificial intelligence is going to rise up, it's going to have consciousness, and etc., it's not going to happen, at least not like that, because if you think about it, it's just had a lot of information which was fed into it, and it's understanding and recognizing the commonalities in these data fields. And therefore, if you ask similar questions, then it has programmed answers to do, or learned answers, you are going to get a similar response, which is really likely going to be a correct one. So that being said, there is not a thinking involved in the natural sense as we think about ourselves or think about things in our own life. However, that's a little bit strange if you think about it, because we started this discussion by telling that, yeah, artificial neural networks are actually copying the real human behavior, the real human brain. So if the artificial neural network is working like this, that means that our own brains are working like this. And if you think about it, yes, that is why we have a tremendous time to learn anything. Learn to speak, learning to standing up, learning to walk. It takes years. And even after that, to professionally run, for example, it might take decades for even us to do so. And it's the same thing because we need to have a lot of input information. And we have to evaluate that the result of that information was correct or not. So I'm trying to stand up. Okay, I couldn't. So this is not the right way. I'm trying to stand up. Yes, so it was successful. So this is the right way. We do it a lot of time, and we are learning to stand up. And then we are learning to walk, and we do everything else as well. So it's quite literally the same thing for how we learn things and how we grow as human beings. And if you think about it, where does consciousness come into the picture? Because I just said that artificial neural networks are not going to have consciousness, because there is no thinking involved. It's just, we feed it in a lot of data and it's giving the expected result out. Basically without thinking, it is programmed into the neural network itself. It's just not directly, we just not directly told it what to say to us. We just, did teach it how to answer us. So where does consciousness come into the picture? Where in the artificial intelligence we cannot point it to, but in ourselves we have struggled to point it out as well. If you just think about it, what is consciousness at all? What do we say what consciousness is? What do we call consciousness? That basically what we call consciousness is our knowledge of ourselves. And if we are remaining in this how it's called, example of artificial neural networks, then it actually somewhat means that consciousness is nothing else but the evaluation that whether or not something what we wanted to achieve was achieved. Basically, the confirmation that something was good or something was bad. I have an aim to stand up, and did this try was successful? This kind of evaluation, this kind of self-check is what actually consciousness is. That we evaluate ourselves, and we can evaluate that whether or not our action was successful or not. And if it wasn't, we can retry and basically teach ourselves. From this point on, we are automated. We can self-teach ourselves because we have a self-knowledge. We have a deep encoded information about ourselves, which makes it possible for us to teach ourselves. And essentially, this is what consciousness is. And this is why a lot of people, and I would argue that most of people, are mistakenly calling consciousness thinking. People do believe that thinking is consciousness, while it really isn't. Thinking is actually the process of the neural network. You see, this is why we have, you have therapy, psychological therapy and such. Because people simply cannot change how they're behaving. People cannot change a lot of things about themselves, because most of the things which we are doing is not conscious. You're not conscious when you wake up. I mean, you do not decide actively that now I'm going to wake up, now I am going to get out of the bed. And, the morning routine. It's not a conscious routine. You are just doing it. You're not thinking about it. And essentially, you are not thinking in the vast majority of your life. And there's a really good reason for that, because thinking is actually really, really energy intensive. So, we are biological life forms. And if anything, in biology, everything trying to, preserve energy as more as they can. So food is scarce, and if you are burning food to think on completely useless things, then you are going to burn your fuel supply really fast and you're going to die. That is why we evolved in a way that in the vast majority of our entire life, we are not thinking. We have this pre-programmed behavior in our brain which is automatically doing the thing. And this is what we can call muscle memory. This is what we can call instincts. This is what we can call daily routines. Basically in every part of your life, the vast majority of decisions are actually happening automatically and not consciously. And your consciousness is actually lacking behind the decision. There was a lot of really interesting experiments with people who had separated half brains. Because of some injury, the connections between the two parts of the brains, the left and the right side, were separated. So essentially, the two parts of the brain are not communicating with each other, and therefore, it creating a interesting phenomenon that the two brains are actually having information from different parts of your body. So the left side of the brain have one eye input and can talk. The other side of the brain has another eye input and cannot talk. So they made an experiment when they separated the view of the person. So it was a cardboard box or something. So with one eye it can see something, and with the other eye it cannot see something. And with one eye they gave the instruction for that side of the brain to pick up a cube from the table. And the person did that. And they asked the person why did they pick up the cube. And the other side of the brain was able to talk, and that is why the other side of the brain started to talk, who did not see the instruction. It did not know that it pick up the cube because it was instructed to do. So the person started to talk that it looked interesting. He wanted to pick it up. It looked interesting, or something like that. It made up an excuse on the fly why they did pick up. In this experiment, the person never said that they don't know why they'd pick up. They just picked it up. It just happened. It never was the case. They always had an excuse for that. Because this is how our consciousness works. Our brain and vast majority of our behavior is actually pre-written. It's actually pre-encoded inside our brain. And when something happens, our consciousness trying to interpret that thing, what happened, as good or bad, to later on evaluate and, reteach ourselves, usually when we are sleeping. For next time, maybe modify this part of the code because it was a little bit dangerous, this situation. But actually, our consciousness, our self-knowledge is lacking behind. It's not in the driver's seat. It's behind the driver and just looking what the driver is doing and trying to figure it out. Why did it happen? And a lot of times, with, for example, fear, phobias, and other types of things in our lives, our consciousness cannot even do anything with that. It cannot. Okay. It cannot interpret what is going on, and that's why. Sometimes we need therapy, psychological therapy, because with the help of a professional psychologist, we might find, the errors in the code, which is making these weird behaviors. But otherwise, we really cannot do anything against it. So that is what consciousness is, basically, functionally. And if you think about it, when will the computer have a consciousness in itself? If we take that the consciousness is basically not the driver in the seat, but the one who watches and evaluates and re-evaluates and reprogramming the original code, then in this day and age, the consciousness of the machines are the humans. Right now, for the artificial neural networks, we are behaving as the neural network's consciousness. Because we are giving the instructions and we are giving the modification requirements depending how it is going on. And yes, we are making automated evaluation systems to make it much faster to teach artificial neural networks. But in the end of the day, sooner or later, a human is going to be the one who is evaluating that this neural network is good or bad. And that is why it is actually I don't believe that computers, at least soon, are going to become conscious and Skynet are going to take over the world. That's maybe going to happen a little bit later, but right now we don't have to be afraid of that.